This episode of Vic's Basement is brought to you by Sony and the PlayStation 4. Greatness awaits. Welcome to my basement, everybody! Hey. It is a new year, my friend.
Happy 2014 to everybody listening out there, and to you, my friend.
And to you, and we were miles apart on New Year's Eve.
We were many miles apart, all through the holidays.
Yeah, we didn't see each other at all.
We tried to see each other. We made some tentative plans, and then I think Ruby got sick.
We had some sickness at our place.
Yeah, and she's still a little sick. So, Ruby, if you're listening to this, please get better soon. Uncle Scott worries about you.
She is wondering why we're on TV. She has noticed.
Has she?
Yeah.
That's
Daddy's
really
on TV. Scott's on TV.
She really says that?
Yeah. Oh. She's wondering what the hell's going on. She actually asked, why isn't Ruby on TV?
Oh, we could make that happen. Ruby knows some people. She's on LinkedIn now.
She was asking if Ruby was on TV. It's crazy.
So 2014 is upon us. I just have to ask this question before we go into our little digression here.
My daughter's going to turn 2 next month, by the way. She's not even 2, and she's already making
You are going to turn 26.
I am turning 26.
Yeah, we're going to go to Daytona Beach.
26.
Yeah, I'm wondering when our portraits in the attic are going to start to wither. New Year's resolutions. What do you have? Relax more. Look how refreshed you look.
Do I look refreshed?
Yeah, I was talking to some of the sales guys today on the way in. Can I tell everybody that we have sales guys?
We have sales guys now.
We have sales guys, and they said that you and I both looked completely refreshed.
Oh, good.
From sleeping. They said you could see it in the eyes.
That's awesome.
That's all I did over the holiday was sleep.
I did sleep. I had no qualms about sleeping. I did play quite a bit of gaming. I did get into a lot of gaming, actually. Just finishing things that were massive and robust.
Yeah.
You know,
you
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yes, got to that.
Yeah, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, it does become a job after a certain point. You know, it does become like, oh, Christ, I have to drive all the way across
But is it just
city.
us, or do other people feel this way?
Well, you know, I think that what it is people have a lot of time to just sort of have fun and time to kill, and you know, games like that are an incredible value, you know, and there's so much amazing detail that it counters any criticism that you have. It's almost a review-proof title, and you know, and the sales numbers prove that out. It's just massive. It's changed everything, but it does get dull just doing the drive. I mean, I don't know if they needed to sort of recreate every square mile of Los Angeles in the damn game, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I understand what the commutes are like now for people that live in Los Angeles, you know? Mm-hmm. I feel like I have a little sympathy for them because there's a lot of boring driving in that thing.
Well, you know, we wanted to do something a little bit different, and we wanted to, before we get into our discussion, we wanted to not end today's show with a Twitter question.
All right, yeah.
We wanted to start with one, but I did something here. I had it on my phone. And
you pressed the button, the magic button that makes it go away.
They call it Victor Lucasing when you erase the email that
I
we
remember
need.
I remember what the question is.
Yeah, but
it's from Kyle Chenard, Mr. Precision.
That's right.
Who is our Twitter question person of the year.
Congratulations
of 2013
to Kyle Chenard.
See, that title is wide open for 2014.
That's right.
So he has it for 2013. Mm-hmm. We should create him a belt of some kind instead of that.
Like a wrestling belt. I like it.
He's got it.
Yep.
And he asked us, was there a game that we missed the first time around that we got into over the holiday break? And I did find one.
Well, his was BioShock.
His was BioShock.
He'd never
the original BioShock.
played
Crazy.
BioShock from 2007.
I
so
don't know
he
if I
played
would
it.
admit that.
So basically what he's saying is, was there a game that came out that was maybe a phenomenon or enjoyed a moment, and that you finally got around to playing? And we don't miss much. We play almost everything, but I think there was an iPad game that really got to you.
I got into Drop Chord for, I'm not a master at it, but I finally checked it out and was absolutely
How does it work? What is
stunned.
it? It sounds boring as hell.
No, it's a music game, so you feel like you feel like you're a DJ, man. You sit down with this thing and you put the iPad on your lap, and then you put 2 thumbs on the screen or 2 fingers, and you're just moving this line. So it's a little bit like Tilt to Live, which is a classic iOS game, and I encourage anybody to play that thing. Mm-hmm. Incredibly cool. It's a little bit like that, and it's a little bit like Geometry Wars. And basically what you do is you create a line between your 2 touch points, and you try to take out the notes and create chords and avoid the sort of the bad dudes, the bad shapes that are trying to take out your combo points, and it changes the rhythm of the music a little bit too as you're playing the game. And then you get into these bonus rounds, but it's really funky, really groovy. It was 99 cents. There were tons of great sales on iOS stuff over the holidays, and I finally got a chance to play that and really enjoyed it. How about you?
Well, one of the games that comes to mind for me is Hotline Miami. I remember Stephen Raju reviewing it on the show, and it was one of those games, not unlike Street Fighter 2, that I couldn't really figure out how it worked, because you look at a screenshot of it, and it's this top-down perspective of what looks like a house plan.
Yeah.
And then there's bad guys in the house. And so I played it on the Vita for the first time. I didn't play it on the PC where Stephen Raju reviewed it.
Yep.
And you and I both enjoyed the
Super
evilness,
cool
the insidiousness.
Grimy as hell, yeah.
Yeah, I felt terrible playing it. But
it's kind of like how you feel playing as Trevor in Grand Theft Auto 5.
You never feel good as you're walking in the shoes of Trevor.
No, he becomes empathetic as the game progresses, or sympathetic as the game progresses. But it's, he's gnarly.
Yeah, so we're gearing up for 2014. We have so many good things that we want to share with everybody in the weeks and months ahead. I think it's going to be a very good year. Now, 2013 wasn't the best year ever in video games, but still there were a lot of bright spots, a lot of highlights.
Yeah, and we had the countdown for with the rocket and ray guns with our sort of leaderboard. Head-to-head type thing there. I thoroughly enjoyed watching. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a new thing for us to put together, the Sweet 16. But it turned out really great. Maybe some of the comparisons weren't that fair. To start off with BioShock and going up against The Last of Us right away, and just seeing The Last of Us just cut a swath through everything so quickly was a little heartbreaking, but it was
it was fun.
It was cool, man.
I enjoyed itself to some lively discussion, and everybody had strong opinions.
A lot of people tweeting and sending us messages saying they did not approve or they loved it or whatever. So it was good. I mean, we got people talking about it.
That's when I know we're doing our jobs. If 50% of the people are unhappy and 50% are happy.
And I'm certainly reading a lot about that, about the top 100 as well. I mean, that has become... it was great. I mean, that was a fantastic experiment in 2013, and it has become a big talking point for a lot of people out there.
Can we tell a little behind-the-scenes stories now about it, now that it's behind us?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I had one day when we were shooting.
Oh, the blow-up day?
And I had a meltdown. I'm a human being.
Oh, come on. We crammed so much content into such a little bit of time.
It was a hot day.
Yes.
We were in Stanley Park. If you're familiar with the Vancouver area, it's a beautiful part of the city.
Yep.
One of the most beautiful parks I've ever been in.
Yep.
And we were talking about Memento, and I just lost it. Yeah. I just completely lost it, and I stormed off. I think was one of... I usually have about 2 or 3 storm-offs. Tommy used to have one once in a while.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah. Well, the challenge with the top 100 was that we put the list together with great remembrances of all of this entertainment that we had, consumed over the years.
We were excited.
And it's one thing to put the name of the thing down that you remember loving. It's another thing to say, okay, we've got to talk about this for about 10 minutes now. And you
I
have
haven't
to remember
seen this movie in about 5 years.
And the production schedule did not allow us to go back and revisit every single thing. I mean, some of that stuff we were able to, but we didn't have time to watch every one of those movies again or play every one of those video games again. So that was a hard task. That was a lot of work to do. It was a lot of work to figure out the list. And then it was a tremendous amount of work to try to keep every one of those conversations a unique thing, a different thing, and to bring out some fresh insights as to, about the value of the property and our reasons for putting it into that number. And
I tell you what was good, though.
I'm really proud of it, though, man. Like that's
I'm proud of it too.
I'm really proud of.
You can look at those things now, and that's one of the weird things from doing the show is you remember what we had for lunch that day. Yeah. You remember the weather that day, and it looked like some people were tweeting to me like, when is that bruise on your arm going to heal? Because I got into a little bit of a bike wreck last year.
Oh, that's hilarious! Yeah,
and it's becomes this little time capsule.
It is a time capsule for sure. Well, I mean, we are doing something. I might as well tell tell everybody now because they're going to discover it next week. Starting on Monday, the new season of Reviews on the Run starts off.
Oh, I can't wait.
And I didn't want to just, move on and forget about the top 100 stuff. I feel like not everybody watched every single episode. Not everybody was able to digest it as it was being put together as, a chunk of each show.
Yes.
I felt like we needed to celebrate it again. And so we're putting all top 100 movie and game suggestions.
Packaging them as one show.
Into 50 episodes. Mm-hmm. So basically it's going to be 4 acts of top 100, and every show is going to have 2 numbers, 2 movies, 2 games. Mm-hmm. Next show, 2 movies, 2 games. And we're going to go through it throughout the course of the beginning of the year, which is always traditionally a kind of a slow year for new content.
A slow time of the year.
Yeah, there aren't tons of brand new games. There aren't tons of brand new great movies. It's a slow January. So this is a solution for us, to have... and we're also reflecting on each of these numbers as we make these episodes and recut these episodes as well. So we'll have a little bit more discussion around all of this stuff. And certainly we'll probably be able to talk about some of the responses that we've had to some of the choices that we've had in some of these episodes. But it's a solution for that. So we're going to have a repackaging of all of the top 100 material, and we're going to be able to look back on it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be... something really cool about that is that we'll have these 50 standalone top 100 episodes, which I think is pretty fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then Scott and I are still going back and forth about what to do about the worst games and worst movies that we've ever...
I don't want to do that.
I know you don't want to do it, and I feel like it would be a lot of depressing news, lots of just sour grapes. But we're going back and forth. I think there's some value in... some kind of, maybe it's less, but some kind of itemization of some of the things that just broke our hearts the most. But that's something that we wanted to talk about right now with relation to 2013 anyways, right?
We do because, we have a little bit of a rundown here, a little bit of an itinerary of where we're going to go with today's show, and I can't open up the email for the life of me. I don't know if it's because we're in this special down in the basement and the walls are sealed with lead. Or, kryptonite is blocking my signal, but I can't open this email. So.
All right. Well, let's start with some of the heartbreakers.
Oh, do you have it there?
Yeah, like Aliens, Colonial Marines, or Killer is Dead.
Okay, we're talking about the biggest heartbreaks of 2013. We're taking one last look back in our rearview mirror before we move on into 2014. And, of course, Aliens, Colonial Marines is on everybody's list if you're going to talk about...
I can't believe that was a 2013 game. I feel like it came out...
ages
50 years ago.
I know. What a horrible moment in the medium of all the years for it to come out. Thankfully, it came out this year. Now it's done and it's behind us, and hopefully we all grew a little bit and we learned something, and Gearbox learned something. And
they're just going to move on and just pretend that it never happened. They're going to work with Telltale now on the Borderlands adventure game. I mean. They are actively looking at Borderlands, and they've also got the Homeworld license, so they are totally moving on from Aliens.
But I think that was disappointing. I don't know if it was exactly heartbreaking. I think we wanted something good, and we were sure it was going to be good, especially considering the success of Borderlands. Gearbox can do no wrong in the last couple.
I think that qualifies as heartbreaking. This is a studio that's proven itself with a franchise that has, required and demanded something of real pedigree, and consistently we've been let down, and it doesn't make any sense at all.
But I feel like there were much bigger heartbreaks last year than this. Killer is Dead, I think, was a disappointing game, and Suda 51 is all over the map these days.
He's very uneven,
he doesn't. And I think that's one of the things that makes him one of the most fascinating people in our industry. Is you never know what you're going to get from him, and you never know of what sort of caliber of quality it's going to be. But I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who wasn't disappointed and a little heartbroken by his latest effort in Killer is Dead.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that just sort of says... And I don't mean to be derogatory or dismissive, but I think he's like, well, it's good enough. This is the art that I want to put out into the world. This is the art that I want to send out. I mean, I could keep going. I could keep fretting and stressing and keep spending money to build this into a bigger thing. But this is good enough. Let's go. And we don't have the budget, and I make no apologies. This is my art. Let's go.
A couple other things that come to mind for me if we're going to talk about heartbreaks is Killer Instinct. I was really let down and disappointed. I know Sean Hatton enjoyed that a lot.
I wasn't. I was surprised by how good it was. I mean, that was a game that seemed predestined to be totally awful.
How good and in what capacity? What's your?
Well, I mean, there's
good?
When we talked about it in the review, I mean, there's so much competition for it. There's so many other terrific fighting games, and this was a studio that isn't known or renowned for being a fighting game studio.
Doesn't because it's a studio that hasn't made a fighting game before.
It was good.
It's not good.
It could be way better.
It's exactly what you think it's going to be, and nothing more.
Right.
And that's the heartbreak. That's the letdown for me.
Especially as a next-gen game, as part of the launch of the next-gen consoles.
I wanted this game to set my eyeballs on fire.
I think you could say that for most of the next-gen games in particular,
Absolutely.
with the launch title. I mean, most of them are they don't set our eyeballs on fire, They don't sort of go, oh my God, this is tipping us into a whole new way to experience video game entertainment.
I guess it's the fighting game genre in general well that I just want a little bit more from.
What about Call of Duty Ghosts, man?
I think that was a bit of a letdown for not just me, but for a lot of people. I mean, it's not selling very well.
I'm playing through it again on Xbox One.
Oh, boy. Why are you doing this?
I'm trying to, usually I find them to be like a Michael Bay movie type of experience where it's just explosions and fun. And this seems so ridiculous, It just seems like it's just, nobody took this seriously. I know that they did. I know that they worked their ass off to try to innovate and build something really cool and fun. But it just seems so preposterous, It's just like...
You got the father and the two sons, and you got guess who turns out to be a ghost? It's our dad!
Yeah, and then, it's just these predestined choke points, and then you get into these firefights, and then every gameplay solution in the thing is just getting into a firefight with a whole bunch of bad guys, and... It feels so bottlenecky and so scripted, and
it has something that's even worse than the dreaded invisible walls, and that is if you wander too far off course, you just automatically fail a mission.
Yeah,
you didn't do exactly what you're supposed to do, and you sit down and you expect sort of the amusement park ride of it all. But it doesn't. It feels like the most boring amusement park ride. Maybe because we've ridden it so many times.
Yeah, I think this is the amusement park ride after you vomited all over your shirt. It's like, okay, I'll go back on again.
Yeah, there was a summer when I worked at an amusement park when I was a kid, and they had this one ride called the Bomber, and it was very old, and it was hell to ride. But you could ride rides for free. That was your only perk. Yeah. And so if other people were on the Bomber, you could get in the other side. It would just go up and down like this and go in a big circle.
And you barfed everywhere?
No, but the first time you ride it, you shit your pants, and you think that's the end of your life. And then I used to ride it every day, and so by the end of the summer... this is no problem. I was reading magazines up there, riding around in the look at that guy up there riding the Bomber, reading a magazine.
That's what's happened in Call of Duty. Yeah,
it's
exactly
you're right. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, the first exposure to Call of Duty Modern Warfare blew our minds, man. It was incredible.
We've never seen a game with that kind of visual fidelity before.
And even Black Ops 2, I mean, against...
It was fun. Yeah, Treyarch did a great job with it.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid game, but this one just felt... I don't know.
I think everybody is just ready for the step forward.
Yeah.
So I think...
And I'm playing it on Xbox One, and it doesn't look any noticeably different to me than... I'm not doing a direct comparison, but it certainly doesn't look like Assassin's Creed 4 on PS4 next to Assassin's Creed 4 on PS3.
Wasn't there a Gears of War game this year too?
Yeah, Gears of War and God of War.
That was the God of War was that was such a heartbreak, man.
Yeah.
Ascension was really a letdown for me. I know you had a little bit more fun with it than I. You have more fun with everything than I do.
I mean, I was up and down on the thing, but I think in totality there was quite a bit of content in there, but it was certainly nowhere near the caliber of even God of War 3. It didn't have the magic. I mean, it felt like a reach. It felt like they wanted to cram the multiplayer in, and you were right. I almost felt like tweeting you over the holidays.
Are you kidding me?
I would never go back to play the multiplayer in that game, and I never really did.
I cannot even believe that we have a record of you saying that.
I love God of War. I hope it's not the end of the franchise. Yeah, I love Kratos.
And
I know that Sony's going to work on some more stuff, and it should look
maybe
incredible.
We need a God of War movie. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Maybe a miniseries.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if I need more God of War games, especially if they're just going to be more third-person action games.
Right.
What else is on the list?
Beyond Two Souls, which honestly I haven't gotten to yet.
I don't know if that qualifies as a heartbreak necessarily.
Maybe David Cage's comments, his self-satisfying smug comments.
That's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
But I like that they're full of themselves, and I like that they put out their own weird, unique games, and I like that Sony publishes their weird, unique games.
I do too.
So
I do too.
There's more respect than there is heartbreak. I don't know if it's my kind of game. I'm with you. We weren't assigned that one. I think that was Stephen Raju or somebody else.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I want to. We've got a couple of weekends here before we really start diving in full force into all of the new stuff that's coming out.
Yes.
So I want to be. That's one I want to get to, and I also want to play Papers, Please, and I also want to play Gone Home.
Oh, yeah. A lot of top 10 year-end lists featured Papers, Please, which Steve Tilley recommended as the game that got left off of our Sweet 16 bracket. What else is on the list over there?
We've got virtual joysticks, motion controls, mobile peripherals, and lack of good launch titles for next gen.
Those are all. Heartbreak might be a strong word. Maybe disappointment is more of a closer word to what I want to describe with
Let's turn our frowns upside down. Let's talk about nice surprises. And I've got a good list here: Need for Speed Rivals, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Diablo 3 on the consoles, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, XCOM Enemy Unknown on iOS. We have to play Enemy Within as well. I hear that's incredible. Guacamelee, yes, and SteamWorld Dig. Yeah, that's great. Those are all terrific games. All terrific surprises. And, we weren't expecting to be as addicted to Need for Speed Rivals.
Not at all. Not at all. I saw this game in New York City in October, and I had my doubts. It looked fun. It just looked like more Need for Speed. And it looked like a game that I'd played before. But when I got it home and loaded it up, you can't argue with the way that you're pulled into the vortex in that game, and it just holds your attention for the clock just starts spinning around like when they fast forward time in a movie.
There's something about you get a new console, and we both played it on the PS4. There's something about getting a new console, and you need a racing game. You need a racing experience that, new machines ship with racing games. Always. It feels like that's always been the way it is. And the game that, because Forza's got a lot of value and there's lots to offer there for sure. But
people love it. Yeah.
And it's a great sim.
Rivals is more my game, though.
But Rivals is really fun. It's really
just pure
addictive.
Fun. Yeah. You know what? It's one of those games you don't have to think a lot.
Yep.
You can just kind of go on autopilot and press the gas and drive like a maniac and crash your car and then get a new car, and then everything just feels so gratuitous and over the top and cool. I love it. Ghost Games, I think, did a terrific job.
Much detail.
I can't wait to see. Give them the reins going forward. Let them take Need for Speed in whatever the new direction is going to be with the franchise.
Or bring back Burnout.
I would like to see
totally fine. With
maybe that. You know what? I think Criterion's been quiet for a little while.
You think that's what we're going to?
Why not?
What we're going to do?
Sure,
that'd be incredible. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Did you play this at all?
I didn't play it. I know Ben Silverman was raving about that. He and Jose reviewed it on the show.
It was cool. I checked it out. Yeah, it's. It is weird because you're using both control sticks to control each of the brothers, and you've got to solve all the puzzles. It reminded me of like a real-time Lost Vikings or something. But I like it, and I like the weightiness of the subject matter, and I could see that there was real pathos, real emotional thumbprints all over it, and I think that's awesome. I think this is the thing that we as gamers that have been playing stuff for a long time are all kind of recognizing is the value in storytelling and the value of imbuing concern for these digital characters in mature ways is really important to us.
Yeah, you want to see the thumbprints and the fingerprints of the creators on these things, and you want to feel the personality of the people behind these projects. And this sounds like one of those games that has that. Yeah, really cool stuff. What else you got?
Diablo 3, I think, was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I really didn't expect that to work at all because I thought that's such a mouse and keyboard kind of experience, or just mouse, really.
Yeah.
And it works as a great third-person action game. I had a lot of fun with Diablo 3, more fun than I did even playing it on the PC. It's like it was such a smooth transition.
And that underlines Blizzard, man. That underlines how freaking talented those guys are and how much they care.
It's still a little bit disappointing. It's more Diablo. It's not, they're
not reinventing the wheel.
Nope.
And then they didn't with the PC release either, but there's still something unbelievably captivating, unbelievably addictive, compelling. You just get lost in that world, and they just, I mean, there again, even as big a company as they are, you do feel like a combined sort of commitment to build something that has integrity and has real artistic value. And they all share that vision, and they work hard to bring us something that can translate like that. And
it's still that game where, just one more dungeon, just a little bit more loot, maybe just one more weapon, then I'll head back to the village, and then suddenly 2-3 hours have gone by.
Well, there was DLC.
And your girlfriend has packed her bags.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah. Does not get it. No, the other cool thing is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which was a nice surprise. I thought that was...
Well, I mean, even Far Cry 3, I think I spent most of 2013 believing it was a 2013 release because it came out so late in 2012.
Right, of course.
We actually missed it in the Rocket and Ray Guns last year, and it was such an achievement and such a strange, weird, cool, fun way. Like that kind of take on the first-person shooter is exactly what I think you need with a Call of Duty Ghost. So you need to do something different. We need to move somewhere. We need to feel like there's been some progress.
Awesome point, because and this just happened, and I remember calling this out when the VGAs happened last year, and Far Cry 3 came out before the VGA or after the VGAs happened, so it was going to be in contention for the following year. And if that were the case, the VGXs should have definitely given that game the best shooter of the year. But I don't think it won the best shooter of the year. I could be wrong, but
BioShock did or something.
Yeah, they gave it to something else. But that game was insane. That Far Cry 3 was incredible, and Blood Dragon was super fun. I think it was a little overdosey. I think it was a little bit like, okay, I get it. It's funny. It's just okay. I've had a little too much.
But for DLC, I mean, what do you want from DLC?
Yeah, I mean, I like the creative take on it. And the jokes are cool. Having Michael Biehn in there was pretty random and awesome. I think by the time it had come out, though, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
Well, yeah,
I'm ready to move on.
And especially if you played through all of Far Cry 3,
which I did,
you had reached the saturation point with Far Cry 3.
Yeah, and some. Because Far Cry 3, you can keep going and going. The game is incredible. I can't wait to see where they go with that franchise. XCOM Enemy Unknown, a terrific iOS game. You need to play it on the iPad, though. The iPhone controls are...
It's so funny because we always talk about these games being translated, these real-time strategy games, or turn-based strategy games, onto the iPad. And this was the first sort of big-budget console caliber turn-based strategy game to get ported over, and it could not work any better. It could not work any better. It just makes everybody happy. And it's a little bit more expensive. It's more than you're used to spending in the store. $20. I don't know if it's come down since
they had a sale. I think they got it down to about $5. You know what I just played, actually, speaking of iOS, is the new Ridge Racer Slipstream, and it's $3, and the graphics are terrific. I mean,
But is it fun?
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun if you like Ridge Racer. It's very much like the PSP version of Ridge Racer, which was a $40 game when it came out on the PSP.
Oh, man, remember the PSP?
Yeah, and just like where we're at now with mobile and portable stuff, Namco says, I'm not going to make a Ridge Racer game for the Vita this time. I'm going to make a pretty robust Ridge Racer game for the iPad and the iPhone and charge $3 for it. Now, there's a bunch of in-app purchases, of course, built into the thing, which kind of detract from it all. But it's crazy, man. I mean, that's what a completely whacked out sort of shake up to the economy of how these things get made now. I mean, that's insane. There's
the rule book is gone.
It's totally gone.
The way of doing business and the way of consuming stuff. I mean, it's all changed in the last 5 years dramatically.
People are leading on mobile. And they're saying, well, we're going to start here, and then if it does well here, we're going to bring it to other things.
And this is part of the reason why this is such a weird dyslexic time for the industry. We're trying to figure it all out.
And you know what? It's directly translating to the stuff that we're reviewing as well, because we just reviewed Peggle 2, which is an addictive thing on. And you'll see that soon in the show. But it's an addictive game, of course. That's easy for anybody to call, but. It felt wrong on the Xbox One. It's great that it's there, but it felt wrong to me. I felt like this would have been
too much machine for not enough game.
Yeah.
I kept thinking there's got to be an iPad version coming.
Yes, and there will be.
Yeah, which
will be the perfect fit.
Absolutely.
And it might be free.
But I was thinking about that in terms of music. Music, there's songs and there's albums.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's shorter albums, EPs or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
But the format of how music it's changed into digital.
Yeah.
But the parameters for making music hasn't really ever changed, and the parameters for making video games are always in flux.
Yep.
We have huge teams, we have tiny teams, we have millions of dollars, we have hundreds of dollars, and it makes sense that we're in this identity crisis that we're in and have been for a little over a year now.
Well, and the other thing that makes sense about it all too is that there is no right way either.
No right way.
Some of the games that are made by the smallest teams end up being some of the coolest things, and vice versa. I mean, I think you also need massive investments to come up with BioShocks and The Last of Us as well. I think we need it all, but it is a weird. Multi-pronged approach to kind of getting to all of this stuff, and it's kind of sad when there's a surplus of choice and some awesome stuff gets overlooked. And we'll do the best that we can to find all of this stuff. I think that's one of the wonderful things about having all of these different teams on the show.
I think we find it. I think if one of us will find it, or somebody on Twitter will find it, I think the good stuff gets sussed out eventually. Going back to the Heartbreaks thing, I would put BioShock Infinite on my list.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I still can't believe that I played BioShock Infinite.
I know.
Because I kept wanting it to be as good, if not better, than 2007's BioShock, and it just wasn't.
The message is incredible. The
story is incredibly ambitious. The characters are ambitious. The world is ambitious.
It's just such a mature story. It's just a well-crafted fable,
But if you're going to talk about the way you play the game, you just shoot the shit out of everything.
Every decision is a shot to the face.
Comes from the end of a gun.
Yeah. Or leap onto a wire that doesn't feel as fulfilling as it promised it should have been.
Feels like a little QuickTime event.
Yeah.
And nothing more than that. And so it's I kept meaning to go back and play through a couple games at the end of the year, and I didn't find the time, and BioShock was one of them, and Tomb Raider was the other one I wanted to go back to.
Oh, Tomb Raider is incredible. That's a game that just got better and better and better as you went. I actually think now, in retrospect, that BioShock Infinite would have served the story and the experience if it was a third-person game, and I hate that kind of conjecture, but I think that Booker was very interesting, much more interesting than the lead in the first BioShock, who was really just this confused
Cypher
guy. Yeah, but here was a real character fleshed out by an excellent voice actor, and we should have seen him, and we should have seen how he, emotionally interacted with this crazy world that he was thrust into, and how he emotionally interacted with Elizabeth. I think that would have been fantastic, and would have echoed a little bit of the same voice actor and the same, weight that we saw with The Last of Us.
I don't know if it would have fixed it to shift into third person.
Well, it would have changed the entire game design, but it would have made for more variety in the stuff that you would do in the game, because it really devolved into, here's this very fascinating character and this incredible amount of dialogue, and we're going to get this history and all of this kind of radical alternate universe stuff, and I just got to shoot everybody. Okay, next sequence, same thing.
Just like, if I think back on that game, and I haven't played it in maybe 6 or 7 months, I just feel like it was one long blimp fight.
And it was just yelling at you
I was
on
a blimp, and I was fighting everybody, and I think, in fact, that was one of the alternate titles for the game, was Blimp Fight.
Blimp Fight.
Yeah.
Whereas Dishonored
Blimp Fight
was much more quiet, stealthy, sneaky.
Maybe because we're mature gamers now.
Yeah.
Maybe we just like quieter games that make us
when you're talking about a story-rich game like that, I don't remember the story of Call of Duty Ghosts. I just remember that some of these guys are called ghosts.
There's 2 brothers.
And there's 2 brothers, and there's a dog.
And the dad is a ghost.
That's it. Because it's just yelling at me for the whole experience. And I think BioShock kind of suffers from that, too. It's just yelling and yelling and yelling, and then there's a guy yelling, and he's telling me all of this interesting stuff, but then it's kind of drowned out by machine gun rattles.
It's a game that keeps, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but it's a game that is hell-bent on topping itself again and again, and you can just feel the team sweating underneath the labor of making the new BioShock game, and it, the first game was a game that didn't follow the usual sort of, rise of a video game where you're fighting bosses, and, you fought some big daddies and stuff like that, but it didn't have that same kind of, here's the video game style climax, and BioShock Infinite, for all of its work and all of its barbershop quartets and all of its, verisimilitude, still just felt very gamey to me. It just kept feeling like it just devolved into a game experience that I'd had before.
Well, look at what's really
that breaks my heart.
Registered with us, though. Look at what has become, the stuff that we keep talking about and keep going back to over the last few years. The Walking Dead from Telltale, The Last of Us, the Dishonored game, even Far Cry 3. There's moments of real stillness in there, and there's
the stillness, man. Right?
There's a quiet. There's this. Let your imagination feel the dread a little bit, rather than just it being a constant threat and constantly present and in your face and yelling at you. Let the game work in the corners and the parameters of your imagination, and then also let us hear the quiet interchange between actors and characters. Let us get to know these people. Even the most recent Zelda, which is a little bit of a hodgepodge of the mechanics we've known for the last 20 years, distilled to become a much more accessible, quicker paced Zelda experience than we've ever played through before, still has lots of quiet and still has lots of moments for you to just sort of get lost in ambience, like even where you pick up the Master Sword and it's just this quiet meadow and the beautiful music and I don't mean to say that BioShock doesn't have all of that stuff, but it is really drowned out. It is really drowned out by its action.
Yeah, I think any time that a game can force you to stop and look at the world around you and rewards you for doing that.
Yes.
And I think it's a very difficult thing to...
Tomb Raider did it too.
To make that happen. The first time I remember that happening is in an old game called Tenchu for the PlayStation 1.
Right.
And I just remember standing on top of, or crouching down like Batman on top of these feudal Japanese villages on the rooftops and looking down at the guards patrolling below and looking at dogs walking around and looking at fields and wondering who these people were and why they were, and when you get to that moment where you engage the imagination of the gamer and the world starts to come alive in a new way. And you're right, BioShock had none of that. I just remember that first time you walk into the city and just being overwhelmed with data, like too much. Like everybody, I think lots of people wrote about this and talked about it, just taking in all the signs and the fonts and the barrels of apples and the floating platforms, and it's just it just didn't feel like all of that stuff needed to be parsed out somehow.
Well, the world needed to be larger. It felt like physically.
I hated being in the sky.
Larger.
Yeah, I didn't like being. I don't know.
Let's talk about road trips.
We took some road trips. We didn't take all of them. We were on the road a lot in the second half of the year. You were, in particular, even more than I was.
Yeah, there were console launches and events and things that I was asked to go and host and stuff. And
how many times were you were in New York? Multiple times last year.
You went for the
Sony thing?
I don't know, like 4 or 5 times in New York and Toronto 4 or 5 times.
We went to Tokyo.
Yeah.
San Francisco. Did we go to San Francisco? I don't know if we went to San Francisco.
No, and we're due. I want to get down there and meet Ben's baby. But favorite road trip?
Favorite road trip of the year?
Wasn't Tokyo because we were there too long, do you think?
I think we were there too long. I started to go a little crazy near the end. You can hear that in our podcasts from that trip. My trips to New York were great.
Yeah,
I loved my trips to New York, both of them. I got to make 2 very late in the year.
Yeah,
and they were both very surreal. And I don't know if I actually experienced them or if I dreamed them, which is where I want to be on my road trips. But Tokyo was pretty great. I have lots of nice memories from Tokyo. What about you?
I got to kind of fall in love with Toronto a little bit more every time that I went. It was kind of cool.
Are you kidding me? You would come back from Toronto every time and say, "That's it. I hate this place."
Well, it's so different from Vancouver.
So cold.
It does get cold for sure, and I'm a wimp, so I was freezing when I was out there. But my problem that I've had with Toronto for me visiting the city is that I've always been in the same area, and it's really sort of the entertainment area, and I go around Queen and I go to Yonge Street but I started to get into different parts of the city a little bit more on this last trip for shooting with Adam, who is our shooter and producer out there. And it was awesome to shoot the rundown segment from the city and then know that it's coming back to the studio here. We're going to send it over the internet, and it was going to be in the show that night. I loved that whole production routine, and I also loved working with the team out there to find different locations. And I also felt really, I don't know, just really loved when I was in the city too. I mean, I saw all kinds of great people while I was there.
You know what? I'm going to change my answer.
Yeah.
Montreal, I think, was a good trip.
Montreal was an awesome trip.
I haven't been to Montreal in a couple of years, not since we first started working together, and it was just like we saw the whole gamut of weather too. When we got there, it was hot.
Right.
We were sweating, and then one day
it
just suddenly turned.
Yeah.
And the city was mean and cold and dark, and I loved it.
Like kings.
The food was incredible. Everything was so full of salt and fat and butter. And
I love old Montreal too, man. It's such a, and I've never been to Quebec City. I've got to get to Quebec City, but the just the history of our country is right there on display. You know, I hate that there's cars down there. That drives me nuts. But old Montreal is beautiful, and it's great to stay near that area and to just travel through there. I had my daughter there. My wife and my daughter were there, so we got some days off in Montreal.
Plus, that's awesome. Now where Batman comes from.
And Batman comes from Montreal too.
Born out of
and
Montreal,
it's very gothic. Old Montreal is very gothic.
A great city to build a Batman game in, for sure.
Yeah. Now, your least favorite road trip?
I went to Bellevue to go to Bungie, which was a real treat. I'd always wanted to go to Bungie. I'd been a fan of Bungie ever since the original Marathon games for the Macintosh. I owned a Macintosh when I was in graduate school 1,000,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Loved Bungie. Loved those games. Loved how cerebral they were and atmospheric. Finally got to go to Bungie, and it was like Blofeld's Lair there. They had like huge fireplaces and just this... it wasn't like a cafeteria. It was more like a little restaurant, a cafe. I mean, that is old school video game money on display. Of course, they took us on a very guided, limited tour. They're building Destiny down there, and they weren't really ready to pull the wraps off Destiny when they had set up this trip. And so there was a lot of pomp and circumstance. There was a lot of promise. There was a lot of, we're going to show you stuff later.
What did they show you?
They showed us nothing.
I mean, they didn't show you the game, but did they show you concept art or anything? Or?
Yeah, we sat in an auditorium for most of the day. I was there with Ben Silverman, and we talked about it on the podcast not long ago. And at one point, they put up this slide that showed some capes that you could unlock in the game for your character. And they were doing, the room was dark, and Adam Sessler was there, and everybody was there. And these are some exotic capes that you'll be able to wear in the game. And it was just so clear that they were spinning their tires because they had obviously made some sort of deal to reveal Destiny on a larger scale with one of the new consoles.
Right.
So it just seemed like we got all the media here.
Because that was just before E3, right?
Just before E3. So let's give them, being in Bellevue, though, what a great city.
Yeah, it is
flying
cool.
down there, that was another surreal trip that I can't believe all the travel we get to do.
I know.
With our jobs sometimes. So that was my least favorite road trip of the year. I'm glad you said Toronto, though. I'm glad that you're falling in love with Toronto.
Well, I mean, I always have a great time with the people there. I always do, but I always feel like it's just a big city. It just feels like it's just big city, and I feel I don't get to see enough of it when I go. But because I've been there so many times was there so many times in 2013, I got to experience a lot more of it. And I think one of the big highlights was the Xbox One party. In the launch party, even though it was a lot of work for me and I was scrambling to do all those live hit things, it was awesome. It was really cool because it was a nice mix of just game fans and the journalists in town.
Was that the night you got to make out with Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas?
Yeah. She doesn't return my calls or my Facebook requests, and now my wife doesn't either, which is awesome.
Did you meet any celebrities when you were there?
No. Yeah. No, not really.
Yeah.
No.
What about Carl?
I met Carl. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah. He's an awesome guy.
Carl was there.
Yes.
So what else you got? Anything else?
No, I think we've done pretty good for our first podcast of 2014. I still have holiday haze. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm not all here. I wasn't even sure we were working today, honestly. I was going to text you last night and say, are we supposed to go in? Are we shooting? Because I shaved. I'm ready to go.
No, I think the shooting starts tomorrow and production begins in earnest. We've got reviews scheduled like crazy. Even though you're going to see the top 100s, refashioned, rejiggered a little bit, there will also be new content in every one of those shows. And we, new Twitter questions, so please keep sending those. And
maybe Kyle Chenard, Mr. Precision.
No, he's done.
Yeah,
Well, actually, if he wants to challenge to reclaim the belt again this year, he's going to have to work on some great questions.
I think he might.
No, he did an amazing job. One thing that I really loved last year that we did...
What did you love?
And you were pushing for it, and EB Games was up for it, was the fantastic... energy that went into building the holiday gift guide episodes. I mean, you were hilarious in the elf costume. Those were some of my favorite days to shoot.
The
that
costume
was awesome.
did all the work for me.
But that was awesome, though, and the people were so into it, and it was just really, it was fun, man. It was really fun this year. I mean, it's always been cool, but it felt like we were in the right place. And in the right costume, and the gift idea was pretty damn solid as well. Having that bag of gifts to give out to everybody, that was great.
What about the time we shot in a pumpkin patch?
That was a fun trip too. Yeah. I can't wait to see what we come up with this year, man.
That's the part that made me feel kind of tired over the holiday, where I'm just starting to think, like, how are we going to do any better? How are we going to give more than we gave in 2013? I'm telling you,
the top 100 worst pieces of shit ever made. We got to do that.
I don't think so.
No?
No, you know what? I want to hear the ideas from listeners. If you have ideas for lists, we talked about maybe doing the top 50 TV shows of all time.
That'd be so hard.
Not really.
Can we just put Twilight Zone episodes?
We've watched a lot of TV.
1 to 48.
We watched a lot of TV over the years.
We have, yeah. TV's never been better, actually.
I don't know.
I'm looking forward to just, cleansing my palate of the 2013 stuff that I never got to, or, just want to kind of finish.
How much NBA 2K are you playing?
I'm still playing like crazy, and I'm playing it on both damn machines, even though I have made my choice. I like the PS4 version much better. It looks a little bit slicker, I like the controller. But the My Career thing, and I heard that there were tons of problems on Xbox One for Battlefield 4 online, and the My Career thing on NBA 2K14. I didn't have any issues over the holiday. All of my stuff updated.
You're Victor Lucas.
Well, it was working for me. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
But these are the growing pains of our new digitally connected consoles now, right? I'm looking forward to this year. These machines really sort of leaving their mark with some amazing titles.
Listen, I'm going to go on record and say that by June we're going to see something that we've never seen before.
Absolutely.
But I don't know what that's going to be.
The new thing.
No idea.
The newness, the new stuff. That's
Ouya
obviously
2.
got me percolating. Not Ouya 2.
Okay.
The Steam boxes, and whatever the new gaming PCs are that are going to come out to counter the new consoles this year.
The Steam box controller. I like that controller.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah. I can't wait. So we have lots to do, lots to see, lots to play, lots of movies to see, lots of TV shows to watch, lots to consume.
Coming.
Let's open our eyes wide and take it all in.
Yeah. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all the listeners out there. I was wishing a Happy New Year to Stitcher.
Sure. Happy New Year, Stitcher.
Stitcher!
Thanks for listening, everybody.